I make an amazing. Uh, it's kind of like an Italian biscotti trifle,
Ooh.
and the biscotti is soaked in Cointreau.
Oh, that sounds divine. This is the worst thing
Yeah,
about being
it's
on screen with people is that you can't share the food they're talking about. Where are the snacks? Gotta get my own after this conversation. It's not fair at all.
I haven't got any snacks. I didn't even bring any for myself. But then I can't sit here going
That's true.
no.
So if anyone else has just joined us, we're just going to be going live in just a couple of minutes at 5:30. We're just going to keep chatting for now while we're waiting for a few more people to come in, and then we can start our shot in the dark chat with Sally Scott. In the meantime, now I'm going to try and think of another bit of small talk, Sally, to fill in these next couple of minutes. Do you have a favourite dish?
Okay, how about this?
Go.
Pardon?
I thought I said, did you have a favourite dish that you like going out for? But I go with what you're about to say.
No, I was going to say yesterday, it's a weather thing, okay? Because I'm really, really into weather. I'm a major weather watcher. I'm a major weather watcher. Anyway, so yesterday it was a beautiful 28, 29 degrees. Today it's been a beautiful 24 degrees. Tomorrow it's going to be 14 and pouring with rain. I feel like I'm in Melbourne.
Yeah. Today was actually our first lovely day in a while. It was 20 degrees and sunny, and we got to go for an extensive walk and got hot, which was the first time that's happened in a pretty long time. Like, especially being locked down, you're like, no, it's not fair. You can't rain while we're being locked down. We can't even go outside. I live in an apartment, I've got a balcony. It's not enough. Really need that good weather. Perth weather.
I think the Victorian people have been so brave with this whole lockdown thing. You've been super brave. It's just so admirable.
It has been pretty tricky. So, but it's what can you do? Oh, we managed to make it. We actually went on a little trip to Western Australia in that very small gap in around Easter when everything was open. So I've made it. I have gone interstate. I've got to see our Western Australian relatives briefly. Now we're back here again trapped. But now it's actually 5:30 now, so we can get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Facebook Live chat with Sally Scott. I don't know which direction to point, depending on where you are, where she is on the screen for you. Sally's here today to talk.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Fiona Hardy. I'm an author as well and a crime book reviewer, and I'm here to talk to Sally about her amazing new book, Fromage, published through Fremantle Press. And I can't wait to talk to Sally today about this because I loved it. I had such a fun time with Fromage, with Alex Grant, and with all of her shenanigans. And if you haven't read the book, which is it actually out yet? Or is it still a couple of weeks away officially? I can't remember.
No, 1st of October it hits the shelves.
1st of October, right. I've got my sneaky advance copy, so I'm very lucky. But so for those of us then who haven't been able to read it like me, Sally, can you tell everyone a little bit about what the book is about?
Yeah, so it's about Alex Grant, who is a journalist. She used to be a very, very major kind of investigative journalist in Perth in the 1990s. So this is all early 1990s. And she did a very, very clever investigative piece on a friend of her father's that kind of turned a little bit nasty. So then she got kicked out of the newspaper and had to kind of become a freelance. So as a freelance journalist, what she tends to do is stick her nose where nobody wants it. And she comes out with some quite interesting things. And so on the side, she's a food reviewer, but mostly she's chasing that investigative journalist piece. And inevitably in this book, it turns out to lead to bodies. Bodies are everywhere. They're splashed everywhere. From Croatia to Margaret River, you've got bodies.
Yeah, look, I really love that. I love the way that the book starts in Croatia, sets up a little bit of a story where she bumps into an old school friend of hers, and then they get to talking about a death that's occurred there, and then invite her back to Margaret River where their creamery, their cheese factory is based. And I said, why don't you come down here? I know there's been a death in Croatia, but let's just, we'll just have a nice chat back in Margaret River. But it's not going to be so nice after all, because things, of course, it's a crime book. Things are going to go horribly, brutally, hilariously wrong, basically. And I really, really loved it. Like,
Yeah,
it was a really fun story. And speaking of being set
yeah.
in a
And
creamery, we've actually already got our first question. Karen Herbert
oh,
asked, Sally, what cheese do you recommend for cold weather?
oh, look. Okay, so how many cheeses are there? I would recommend anything that is basically says cheese on it, because myself, I really love a triple cream brie,
Mm,
preferably Tasmanian,
mm.
because their cold weather and their cows do this extra creamy milk. And so when you have a triple cream brie from Tassie, it is just absolutely out of this world. So that's what I would recommend.
That's a great answer. Sorry, I feel like you were about to say something though, and I was like, no, I want to hear about cheese, but carry on.
I have no idea what I was going to say.
That's all right. Well,
I
actually,
just went on with cheese.
cheese is very distracting. Well, actually, one of my questions that I had for you, and oh, in case I
Yeah.
didn't say, anyone who's listening today, you're welcome to pop a question in the chat underneath, and I'm happy to pass it on to Sally and see if we can get any interesting answers. But I also have my own questions to ask Sally today, including, can you tell us how this book came to be? Like, where did it start? Did it start because you were like, I love cheese, how can I write a book about cheese? Or did it start in some other way?
No, no. It actually started with Alex. So Alex became my friend first. So I was actually sitting one day about 20 years ago, we're talking about 20 years ago. I
Wow.
was sitting there and I was reading a crime book and I was eating chocolate and drinking coffee. And I was sitting there and I was thinking, gee, I spend a lot of time reading and I tend to eat at the same time. And then I thought, eating, I wonder if you could kill people with food. And of course, you can. I mean, how many times did Agatha Christie poison people? You can with poison. But how can you use food as a murder weapon in other ways? So that got me thinking about murdering people with food. And then I had always already created Alex, kind of had just jumped into my head as this fun person that I'd like to have a drink with. And the two things kind of just coalesced. So I've kind of lived with Alex for 20 years. And the first book I wrote about her was called Feast, and it didn't really work in the end. So that I chucked that away and started all over again with Fromage 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So 4 years ago, Fromage started.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how it came about. It came purely about because I was reading a crime novel and I was eating chocolate. So
I, I
that's
really
it.
love that. I love the way because Alex does feel like so much of a real person. She honestly feels so real that it makes sense that she kind of had 20 years to become a real person and become your friend, because she's also like, I love the way that she's really chaotic. Like, I can't remember, I tried to write down this one line. That's right, she says that she's trying to pick between two options of something she could do. One of them, she says, this dangerous option was better suited to the chaos principle that governed my life. And that line made me laugh because she is just so, she's like, what can I do? This is sensible. This is chaos. And she always goes for chaos. And of course, no one wants to read about someone making a lot of sensible decisions. Like, that's not what we're here for. We love the
Yeah,
chaos. So I really appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I loved, like, how did you find the balance between kind of making her too chaotic? Or did you like keep trying to throw chaotic things in her way as you were writing? Or did you, how did you strike the balance between making
Um,
it fun and like relatable?
I think that, I mean, I wanted her to be a spontaneous person. Like I have a sense that there are sometimes I'm in a situation and I think I'd really like to do this. And then I think to myself, no, 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 I have to be sensible. I'm a grown up. I've got to be a sensible person. And so I go sensible. And so with Alex, I thought, well, what the hell? I'll just let her take that not sensible thing that I sometimes wish that I would do. that, you know, I wouldn't always be constrained by being the sensible person. So that's why that's important for me with Alex.
Yeah, I loved it as well, and all the characters she has to bounce off. Like she has her two parents who have such different personalities from her as well. Like there's her father who's a court judge, and one of the people that she's hanging out with down in Margaret River basically bases his affection for Alex all about the fact that he wants to impress her dad, who's just like far too above everything like that. And then you have a very flighty mother over
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
and then you have her dear best friend Ben, who does all of the cooking, while Alex is like, "No, you cook for me. I'll clean up maybe later." And how did you
yeah.
kind of populate the book with all of these great people?
I went to a private girls' school,
Okay, that
and
worked.
yeah, I went there for 2 years, and there were lots of interesting people. And I have Alex living in the western suburbs of Perth, which is the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, the equivalent of. And yeah, there's so there are composite people, like Maria is a composite person, and Charles is a composite person. Jessica isn't. She's something, so that's Alex's mum. She's somebody that I would like in my own life. I think that's where she comes from because she is intensely kind. All of her motivations are from kindness.
Mm.
And so that's what I wanted that from Jessica. And then the Paharich family are, you know, they're the baddies, and they came about actually from court cases from the
Okay.
1990s about drug running and guns, arms running here in Western Australia. So
Okay.
that's actually based on kind of a real story about foreign nationals running drugs and guns. So it all kind of came together and seemed sort of natural that these people, yeah, came into my life. Um, yeah, very, very natural process.
I really love to hear that. Actually, that's interesting because we had someone called Pete who was asking if any members of your immediate family influenced the book. But I guess that kind of you've explained it then with by saying that they've kind of been an amalgamation of a few different people. I was also wondering.
Oh, none of my just a minute. None of my immediate family influenced the book.
Okay, good.
Yeah, none.
Done.
There's none. Yeah, so they don't actually appear in the book. I think I got my ideas actually outside of my immediate family.
Yeah, can sometimes be a bit too close if you start to put your immediate family in something like that. You want to keep that far away. Let's just move that over there. So when you
Yeah.
talk about things like, talking about these court cases from the past, did you do any other research? Was it so you said it kind of came across organically, but there's things like, well, the fact that it started set in Croatia. Have you been to Croatia? Can you tell us about your history with that country?
Yes, yes. I'm married to a Croatian, and there's an extended Croatian community here. And I've been to Croatia, and I adore it. I am deeply in love with Croatia, and specifically the Dalmatian coast. So my husband and all of his family are in the Dalmatian coast. That's where they are, centered in a town called Makarska, and it's so beautiful. It's sometimes you go out in places around the area and out on the islands, and it breaks your heart, you know, because it's just so beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds
so
lovely.
that's about Croatia. That's why it's there.
Yeah, wow. That's we've actually got another question which is a bit off topic, but Vanessa Mann wants to know, does any champagne feature in your book?
Hello, Vanessa. Yes, champagne is something that is alcohol is something that's quite important to Alex as well because it goes so well with cheese. So in this book, she eats cheese and drinks at the same time most of the time. She drinks a very good Verdelho. She drinks a Chardonnay, of course, because Chardonnay was the big thing back in the 90s. And she drinks very good port. So, yeah, because port goes with cheese and dried fruits and things like that. So there's a scene where she's just sort of getting into that whole thing. That's where she's actually eating the triple cream brie. Yeah, when she's drinking port.
Actually, I loved all of the food descriptions. Like it was ridiculous. I'm trying to cut back on my kind of intake of snacks because of lockdown. So now I can't go anywhere. So I'm like, it's also so easy to just sit on the couch all day trying to do my work and like, well, I can't move. Maybe I should just eat constantly. So I'm trying to not do it. And then I'm reading Fromage and I'm like, oh, come on. I'm like, everything sounds so delicious and luxurious. And when you like, so it made me hungry the whole time. And I'm sure it'll make the other eaters hungry too. But when you're writing, do you eat while you write, or do you just like, are you
No.
hungry and you're thinking about food as you're typing, or?
No, what I'm doing is because I do like for fromage, I did a bit of research. Actually did quite a bit of research on cheese,
Mm.
and a lot of the research obviously doesn't appear in the book because it's fiction. But I became fascinated. I went to the site for the Paris Cheese Fair. They have a cheese fair every year. And if you go on that site, you can get all the research and some articles and things like that. And I found the process really, really interesting, where it goes from sort of like the udder of a cow to this incredibly sophisticated chemical maturing process. It's like, Jesus, you just wonder, wow, how can something as ordinary, as something that dangles underneath a cow, come out with this amazing product at the end? It's fantastic. Yeah, that research was really good.
Actually, another type research thing that I was thinking of. So you've said it in 1993. Was there anything
Yeah.
did you have to kind of, like, I know you lived through 1993, but like, did you have to go back and check on any things that happened around that time to
Yes,
confirm?
yes, a lot, a lot. I had particularly technology. I really had to be really careful about technology and what technology was available. So, for example, Alex loves technology. She is an absolute tech. Um, she just loves new technology, and Charles loves new technology. Her father, and so he's constantly buying this new technology. But his trophy wife thinks that the technology is horrible, right? So she makes Charles give it all to Alex. So Alex has got this amazing like Sony Trinitron 55-inch telly that she thinks that people can see from the moon, and it's completely amazing. And from our point of view, of course, that's just nothing.
It
It's
doesn't have a
quite
55
dull.
inch TV, yeah.
Exactly. But so a lot of that I really had to research what was actually available, and how she could get it from Japan, where most of this technology was the best and where it was happening, to Perth. And the conduit is always Charles, always Charles. Yeah.
He's a man with access to things, that's for sure.
Yep, he sure has.
I love there's one of my favorite scenes is when Alex, so she gets a kind of a mobile phone for the time, which is like not one of our type of tiny iPhones, and nobody else has one, and like getting any kind of reception is like involves this, there's this hilarious scene where she's on a beach trying to get reception and like trying to climb things, and it's just like I remember those times and like when it was
Yeah,
quite
me
hard.
too.
And I loved that kind of thing. So but what was it like writing a book without mobile phones, without people being able to like just like there's a few situations where you're like, well, actually I think you handled it really well, but like where what was it like writing something where people couldn't just call like we do now?
Yeah, yeah, it was really weird. It was really weird. And I wanted her to have the Nokia. And one of the things I had to check was where the towers were,
Yeah,
at that stage in the early 90s, where the towers were down south, because there was a very, very rudimentary network. And so I wanted her to have the Nokia to bring up that weird issue that unlike now, they couldn't talk to one another. I wanted it to be a real point of reference for the historical context. And, you know, I'm hoping that there'll be younger readers that, you know, women and blokes who might want to read it who are in their 20s who can't imagine a world without mobile phones. So I kind of wanted
I feel
to
like
put
I can't remember it anymore.
Me too. So I wanted to put her in that context of, you know, you actually did have to look for a telephone and have money to put in it. You know, I wanted all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that part of why you chose to set it in 1993, or was there another reason you chose that particular period? Oh, was that? Okay, I love that.
Yeah, the whole technology thing was one of them. And I wanted her to be really good with technology, unlike me. I'm completely pathetic. I mean, I'm so pathetic. So I wanted her to be technologically able. So putting it back in there in 93, early 90s, meant that I could cope with that technology as well. And also the early 90s in Perth was just crazy. It was just crazy. There was so much white collar crime. There was so much flexible marriages going on. There was so much social mobility because there are a lot of people from the middle class that all of a sudden got extremely wealthy, and the upper old moneyed families somehow or other had to take on board this nouveau riche. So it was a very strange time in Perth. And so I thought that kind of really suited somebody like Alex, who lives in chaos. So the time kind of represents the personality of the main character. Yeah.
I really love that. That's a really great answer. I actually have a question from Georgia now, who wants to know, how would you describe Alex's moral compass?
Oh, her moral compass. She is, I think she's very, she knows right and wrong. And I think she's a very staunch upholder of right when it comes to deep moral questions and deep ethical questions. When it comes to lying about what she may have done the night before, or lying to her father, or lying to somebody to get what she wants or a piece of information, then she has no ethical compass. No. She just lies.
I do love that, where she's sometimes like, do I need to tell the truth to the police? Later. Not around to it. And we also have,
exactly.
We also have Stephanie, who says, you said Alex felt like a friend. If you could give her one piece of advice, what would it be?
One piece of advice to Alex as a friend. Oh, that's hard, because I really like Alex. I like her a lot. She's been a real saviour for me. And if she was my friend, I would ask her, my advice to her would be to spend more time with me.
Yeah. Can you tell us, why do you feel like Alex was a savior for you? What did she do for you as a character, or as a someone to write?
Well, Alex, you know, as I said before, had been with me a very long time, and I'd always wanted her to be funny. I always had it in my head that I wanted her to be chaotic and friendly and out there a little bit. I wanted her to be able to love people and be unashamed in her love of people, like her best friend Ben and her mother Jessica. So I wanted all of that, and then I got that, and I had 10 chapters of Fromage done, and she'd really grown, and I'd had her for 20 years, and then I had the 10 chapters of her, and then I got breast cancer.
Wow.
And while I was writing about while I was, being plugged in with all these things and having people kind of stabbing me with stuff and, poison and losing hair and looking very, very strange, I was able to go back to Alex and write her story. And the more comfort I wanted from her, the more bizarre situations I then put her in. The more chaotic she got. And so I really, really, really wanted to laugh. And so that's what I put into Alex. And that's why she saved me, because when you're undergoing something that's quite so confronting, where your body has just decided, well, bugger you, I'm just going to go and explode, you need something to focus on that makes you feel like a human being. Yeah, and Alex gave me that. She was really important.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. So the writing process must have been so different for you beforehand and then during that experience, and then when you were editing afterwards and going back, and did there feel like there was a difference between those first 10 chapters and then the later chapters that you were writing during your treatment? Or was it?
No, because I tried to keep it the same, because in the first 10 chapters, I fell in love with Alex, and so I tried to keep that going, That was where she saved me, that element of it. The editing process was something else completely again. And oh my God, it's the first time I've ever had to undergo an editing process like that. And I tell you, it is hard. It's really hard.
The publishers are listening in, so we're being delicate about the editing process.
I was quite shocked at how hard I found it. That, yeah, the writing was much, much easier than the editing.
Yeah. Did you find any of your characters? Yeah, like I found there was one character I wrote into to a book of mine once, and then during the editing process, I realized that she was dragging the book down by being a real jerk. Like she was like I was trying to make her be hilarious and mean, and then I was like, she's just too mean. Now this book has become a mean book. And so therefore in a later draft I had to kind of transform her into this not like fun happy person, but she became a lot lighter. And it was kind of an interesting change to the whole dynamic. Did you have any characters, obviously not Alex, who was so fully formed, but yeah, did you have anyone who, were there any big changes through the editing process that you made?
Yeah, there definitely was. Brian Puharich got more depth. So Brian Puharich, when he starts out, is just kind of like very two-dimensional. He's just sort of like a bit of an idiot, with a big nose, but fantastic cashmere jumper and great shoes.
Yeah.
So through the editing process, though, I really had to make him a little bit deeper with something about him that was redeemable.
I think you did a really good job.
And I think also,
I think you did a really good job of making that roller coaster of feelings towards Brian very, I don't want to say too much, sorry. You did a good job.
Yeah.
I don't mean to.
But I think also that during the editing process, Marco changed as well, because he also started out as fairly two-dimensional, and I wanted him to also have greater depths and greater mystery, rather than him just being insanely good looking. I wanted, he is just insanely good looking. And I wanted him to have,
his charm emanated from the page.
Yeah, isn't he gorgeous? Yeah, so I needed both of those characters to just have something more meaty about them. Yeah.
Georgia, your publisher, says that she thinks part of the reason why the editing process was tough was because you were working on a series. She asks if you agree with that.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's really hard because I've always had this as a series in mind, because I like Alex so much. and I want to chuck her around a bit into different scenarios. And also the food as killer. I want to. It's a series because I want to see just how many ways you can kill people with food that isn't poisoning. That isn't poisoning. So it's really important for me to have a series where I can experiment with these ways of killing people with food. And Alex is the one that kind of uncovers all of that, and that's why I love the idea of doing a series and having Alex there. And she makes me happy. It means I get to hang around with her.
I love that. I love the way that it makes you happy to write, and then readers happy to read. And it's just, I love it when something like that kind of shines through the page. Like, it's so clear how an author's intention can really, really reflect onto the reader and make them feel good as well, even though people are dying. like I love having crime books that have lots of, there's lots of really dark crime out there where everything's very depressing, and then there's this which is like, oh, bad things are happening, but I'm still having quite a good time in this, which is, it's refreshing to have a lot of different genres out there. We have another question. This one's from Di, who says she wants to know if Perth-based readers will recognise locations from WA and Perth.
Yes. So you'll definitely recognise Cottesloe Beach and its surrounds. She lives on near Cottesloe Beach, and so you'll definitely recognise Cottesloe Beach. For those that remember back in the day, there were less shops along the foreshore, so you had a lot more freedom of movement. It was very chilled. There was no, I don't know, it was a really great place, Cottesloe Beach, back in the 90s. It still is a fantastic place, but it was, people were much more chilled. It was much less about being seen and having the white bikini and all of that kind of stuff. Now, back in those days, it was about just how beautiful the beach is. The beach is just so important.
Yeah, that was actually when I hate to make this about me temporarily, but when in Easter, when I managed to make it over to Western Australia, this is the first time I'd ever been. I went to Albany a few years ago, but I hadn't been properly to Perth, and we'd gone to Christmas Island for a week. And that was when that cyclone came and hit the kind of north of WA, and the whole time I was in Christmas Island, known for its beautiful diving and water, it was like, you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't go swimming. It was just like rain, it was sideways rain. We couldn't do it. Like, we managed to escape out to a few nice beaches, but it was like not we weren't there really just for the beaches. But I was like, come on, a tropical island, are you kidding? So but then we came back to Perth for a week afterwards, and like we just managed to kind of fly around the cyclone, and I got to go to Cottesloe for the first time, and it's just gorgeous. It was such a nice, very calming experience to just be able to float around, and I was like, oh, I get it now.
It's really and of course the sun sets there, and in Western Australia, because I've lived in Victoria, so I know it well, and in Western Australia the sky is really big. It's really big and really blue, and when you sit on cot and on a summer's day and the sky is huge, it's so enormous and blue, and then you hang around for the sun to go down, and you grab some fish and chips and just sit there. It is just bliss. It's bliss. So it's a really important setting for Alex.
Karen says she suggests that everyone in the chat should buy white bikinis and then read the book on the sand. So I think that sounds like a pretty good plan. It sounds like a very good day, to be honest. We've actually got another couple of questions as well. Vicky wants to know, Sally, who is the target audience?
The target audience. Well, I think that simply because of the fact that I'm a female writer and it has a female protagonist, it will appeal to women. And what I'm hoping is that it will appeal to young women, because she's a dag and her life is chaotic, and she gets into situations that are funny, that are fun. And then up to people, who are in their 60s and older, who are nostalgic about the 1990s, because I'm talking about shoulder pads in t-shirts, and I'm talking about double denim, and I'm talking about
Stonewashed jeans.
glittery ballets, all of those sorts of stuff, all that 1990s, the hair, the hair. So there should be some kind of nostalgia around that kind of thing as well. So I'm hoping it has a really broad appeal, and I hope it appeals to people who like reading series.
Yeah, I think it does. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
one thing as somebody who, because I'm a bookseller as well, and I sell a lot of crime books, is that crime, especially, I find that people do like. It's frustrating because a lot of the time you do find that men will want to read about men and women want to read about women. But in crime, it feels quite different, where everyone's kind of really just like, I just give me some good crime. I just want all of it. So I think there's like a lot of broad appeal in this book as well, and in crime in general. And you're right that, like, because she's young, she's 30, or is she just about to turn 30? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, 32, 33.
Early
Yeah.
30s, that's right. So yeah, you're right. Like, it's actually really good to have a younger person in a book, because a lot of the time a lot of crime goes, all right, everyone's in their 60s about to retire. That can be something that happens. Look, and then sometimes that's great, but look, sometimes that can happen quite a lot. And so to have a younger protagonist as well can be really interesting too. And yeah, I think you're right. It'll appeal to younger people, plus also older people who remember 1993 and will love to go, oh yes, mobile phones, we're just not there. Like, remember we had to find a payphone and go through the car to see if we could find some coins in the seats.
No, Fiona, they were there, but they were those, it was like this.
Yeah.
They were enormous black bricks.
Yeah, pull out that antenna. We've got some more questions now. Well, there's actually so many that I'm losing track with my talking. Karen wants to know what the next books in the series are.
So obviously they're all about food as murder weapon. And the next book is called Oranges and Lemons. Guess what the murder weapon is?
Oh, I love it. Do you have a date for when that's going to be out, or not quite yet?
No, I'm 32,000 words in.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I pretty much know where I'm going with it. So I'm just in the midst of writing, I'm in the midst of what I love to do. And yeah, just see how we travel with this one. Yeah. And then there's a third book planned out too that's called Pinot Noir.
Ooh, sounds like someone's going to get conked with
yeah.
a bottle of wine. And then we also have a question from Karen, who says she loves the cover, which I'm just going to hold up a bit closer for everyone to see. She wants to know who came up with the design. And luckily for me, the publisher has also said that was Nada Bakovic, is it? Who came up with a beautiful design for this book. So yeah, what did you feel like when you saw this for the first time? Were you like, yes?
Well, I had actually 4 choices. So it was all on a theme, but there were 4 of them. And then, so Georgia, the publisher, came to me and she said, right, this is what we're thinking, this is what the look, and we need to think of it in terms of it being a series. So it has to have a look that we can kind of roll out. And I knew, and they had this, and they had we just made slight adjustments to it. So the shoes were purple, and she had to have red shoes, it had to be red shoes. So I kind of didn't really make that kind of change to it. It wasn't really significant. The cover, which I think is brilliant, came out of the brain of the cover designer. Yeah. Amazing woman, and I think she did an incredible job.
Yeah, so apart from the fact that this is about cheese, the book also has a lot of shoes in it because Alex is quite the fan of shoes. How did you feel murdering so many pairs of shoes in this book? Just like, she kept like killing them off. I'm like, oh, the shoes, the poor shoes.
I know. It was like I couldn't think of I couldn't think of ways of avoiding it, you know, because of the situations I was putting her in. And that's why she takes that other emergency kind of pair of shoes, the wreckable ones. She always packs wreckable shoes. So they're the pair that if she's in a, she knows she's going to get into a sticky situation, they're the ones she wears because she doesn't care if she wrecks them. We've all got those pairs of shoes. But so she wrecks those, but she's still got all this time. So she's got to dip into her nice shoes. And it breaks her heart. It really breaks her heart. And so what saves her though is the fact that there's a shoe shop, a really good shoe shop in Margaret River that she's able to go to and replenish her supplies. So that kind of makes her feel that little bit better that she hasn't, you know, yes, she's had to put some of her shoes down, but she can go and replace the 3 that have been completely decimated by 5 new pairs.
It really just like those scenes just really made me laugh of just like the sadness of like the shoe, like can the shoes be saved? No, they cannot be saved. We just need to move on. But she has a lot of backup pairs in her house. Like she's staying in this cabin in Margaret River and it's mostly just crates of shoes and wine.
Yeah.
It's a good plan. It sounds like a good holiday, to be honest. Patricia also says that she's completely in awe that you completed the book while you were sick. She says scientists say eating 3 heads of iceberg lettuce can kill. So is that a new plot for your book, perhaps? There you go.
What was that one?
That Patricia says that scientists say that eating 3 heads of iceberg lettuce can kill you. So there's a new plot idea. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that. That's amazing fact, isn't it?
I did not know that. I'm like, now I'm going to be afraid of eating, you know, having any types of food where I'm always wrapping it up in lettuce and getting carried away. But back off.
Well, whoever that is, I tell you what, that could be in one of my books. That's an excellent way to kill someone.
It's pretty good.
I like that.
When it comes to the crimes in your book, do you kind of how does the crime pan out for you? Are you the type of person who's got lots of index cards with like a plot, or do you just kind of go, let's see what happens and anything like that?
I kind of know who I want dead, but I always start writing. I always just start writing, just write, and then get something down, 5 or 6 chapters usually, and then and that's when I start to plan ahead, but never in some deep indexy card detail. Index cards terrify me. I don't know how I would control them. So I tend to write things just on blank pieces of paper and scroll. So I'm writing here, and then I'm scrawling here as my points of how I go forward. Yeah.
What's your actual writing process when you're sitting down? Do you write longhand? Do you write on a computer? I write on a
Okay, so I write on my little tiny weeny little what's a kid's computer. It's called Child's First Computer or something or other. It's a little one and it's bright blue. And I like to work at the South Perth Library because it's just a magnificent library. And it's got these huge windows that I can sit next to and watch the world outside while I write. And then I like to go away when it's time to edit and keep the whole book in my brain. I go away and I stay alone somewhere where I can keep the book in my mind and just spend 5 days doing nothing but editing the book and going through the book and doing all of that kind of stuff. And again, scratching on blank pieces of paper about where I'm lost or where I'm not lost. And those days are really important because, you know, it's like I barely get out of my pajamas. If I get out of my pajamas to have a shower and put on other pajamas, I eat cereal for breakfast, lunch and dinner. It's, you know, it's a bit icky. The whole process is icky, but I get it done. And then, so that's that process. And then sometimes, like at the moment, because I'm reviewing the first 10 chapters of the next book, I'm doing that at home, between home and the library, depending on the weather, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I liked working in the library again. I worked on my first book at the State Library of Victoria, which has got that beautiful big dome room, and just sitting in there, it's just like I'd have to get there early to like elbow everyone else out the way, because even though there was tons of seating, everyone else was there, and sometimes you'd be sitting next to these students who would just like put down, like close their laptop and then just leave to go on lunch, and then just leave their laptop behind, and I'm like, anyway, that's off topic. But it's really interesting with the different environments. And now actually I've broken up my morning into my day into two lots. So like in the morning I go to a cafe and I get my like some toast and I get a coffee, and then I sit there for a while, and then like having the noise of humans around me really works. And then later on in the day I have to sit there in the quiet of my own house with no music. And then if my family is nearby, I can't get anything done because they're existing, and I have to kind of pay attention to them. When you're in a cafe, you can zone out. When your family's there, you're like, what do I have to do? What's going on? You know.
But don't you find that when you're in a cafe, when I'm in a library, I can zone out most noise in a library, including the singing time, rhyme time for little kids. I can zone out on that. But if I'm working from home and my husband is at home, he's in the complete other end of the house, I can hear him breathing, and it drives me mad, you know?
Yeah.
Do you ever get that?
Yes, absolutely. And especially like now with lockdown, I'm like, just everyone else is just so in my house, and I'm like, we're all doing it. We're all going like, please, space. We've only got about
Stop breathing.
We've only got about 5 more minutes left to go with this talk. So if you've got any more questions, please let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear if there are any more questions. But in the meantime, Sally, are you reading anything at the moment? Have you got any good crime books or non-crime books that you're reading?
I read a lot. I mean, I read a lot, and I always have audiobooks on as well. So if I'm not reading hardcover, then I'm listening to audio. So my hard at the moment is Gary Dish's latest. And then my non-fiction is a book about spies between the wars. The spy movements between the First and Second World Wars. And on my audiobook, I'm listening to Dorothy Elsayer's Gaudy Night, and I'm also listening to Hastings' book on the D-Day landings.
I love that you have four going at the same time.
Yeah. Depending on what mood I am in each day, and also, which is really weird, what part of the house I'm sitting in at any given time of the day. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I actually get I usually have like a backup book. So when I'm reading crime and I'm like, okay, everyone's dying. And then sometimes I've read too many crime books in a row. I'm like, no, I have to read something nice where everyone's living and everyone's having a happy time.
Yep.
And then I read a bit of that and I'm like, okay, I can get back to seeing everybody die and all the carnage again now. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you read crime books that you take it, now that you're published, and do you take stuff from reading crime? Like I find a lot of the time when I'm reading crime books, I'm like, or whatever, book genre that I'm working on, I'm like, okay, I didn't like that about that. What didn't I like? I'm going to take that on board. Do you find that as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like Alex is that since about 2018, there's become a real fashion in crime publishing where it's about women being stalked and then killed in really awful ways. So you've got that psychological tension of the stalking and then the really horrific killing. And I read a couple of those and thought, I just can't read that fiction anymore. I've got to shift to something else. And that's why I'm glad I had Alex to fall back on as well. And also people like MC Beaton, something like that. But yeah, I like to avoid certain types of crime at times. Yeah,
excellent. So we've got that's kind of wrapping up. Is there anything else before I wrap it up, Sally? Is there anything else you wanted to say that I didn't ask?
No, I'm good, all good. I just would like people to like Alex.
Oh, it's impossible not to like Alex. She's just wonderful. And here are her feet again. So thank you so much, Sally. It's been an amazing chat, and I hope you've all enjoyed it. And thank you for all your questions, which apparently in the chat has devolved into arguments about letters. So type in there. Maybe that's how this crime's going to happen, the chat there. Fromage is available to pre-order from Readings and from now, and will be shipped on the 28th of September. And there might be a little link in the underneath the so we're on Zoom while you're on Facebook, so there might be a link underneath there. The next episode of A Shot in the Dark will be hosted by Jane Seaton of Beaufort Street Books, and will feature Karen Herbert and her book The River Mouth. It will be on at 5 p.m. AWST and 8 p.m. AEST on Wednesday, the 6th of October. The Fremantle Press will give a free book to anyone who turns up in a white bikini, they say, which I loved. But thank you so much for listening. I hope you've had a really great time with this Shot in the Dark Q&A. Thanks so much to Fremantle Press, and thank you so much to Sally as well. Until next time.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.